Jungkook opens up about Taehyung. His shocking confession in BTS's latest interview left fans flustered, laughing, and completely speechless. In what was supposed to be just another warm and playful BTS interview, fans were suddenly thrown into absolute chaos after Jungkook made a confession about Taehyung that no one saw coming, and the moment was so unexpected, so personal, and so oddly specific that the entire fandom instantly lost control. At first, everything seemed normal. The members were seated comfortably together, smiling, joking, and answering questions with the same effortless chemistry that fans have loved for years. The atmosphere was light. The energy was relaxed. There were little laughs, teasing comments, and playful interruptions between the members, exactly the kind of interview Era and Wise usually enjoy. But then the conversation shifted. And suddenly, what started as a casual question turned into one of the most talked about BTS interview moments in recent memory. It all began when the host asked a seemingly harmless question about personality and understanding among the members. The topic moved toward who knew each other best, who understood each member on the deepest level, beyond what the public usually sees. At first, everyone laughed. Some members looked around. A few smiled knowingly, and then the host asked the question that would change everything. Who do you think understands Taehyung's real personality the most? The room instantly changed. There was a very brief pause, just one of those tiny, almost invisible pauses that mean something important is about to happen. And then Jungkook, with a calm expression and a voice that sounded far too confident to be random, said, "If it's about Taehyung, honestly, I think I probably know his personality the best out of all the members." And just like that, the entire room exploded. The members burst into laughter. The host looked visibly shocked. The cameras immediately cut to Taehyung, whose expression changed almost instantly, from calm to embarrassed, from composed to completely caught off guard. And fans? Fans absolutely lost their minds. Because it wasn't just what Jungkook said. It was how he said it. He didn't sound like he was joking. He didn't sound like he was guessing. He didn't sound like he was trying to be funny. He sounded like someone who had just casually revealed something incredibly real. And that was exactly why the internet exploded. A casual BTS interview suddenly turned into the moment everyone couldn't stop talking about. The interview had started off with all the familiar charm BTS is known for. The members were smiling, teasing each other, and answering lighthearted questions about habits, personalities, and daily routines. Jin was naturally keeping the atmosphere fun. Jae was laughing brightly. RM tried to stay composed but kept smiling. Suga looked quietly entertained. Hymin was covering his mouth every time he laughed too hard. And then there were Taehyung and Jungkook. At first, they weren't talking too much. They smiled. They laughed. They glanced at each other here and there, but they didn't dominate the conversation. And somehow, that made fans even more suspicious, because longtime BTS fans know something very well. Sometimes the quietest moments end up becoming the loudest ones. There was a strange but familiar kind of energy between them in this interview. Subtle, comfortable, and impossible to explain unless you were really paying attention. Not dramatic. Not obvious. Just naturally connected. The kind of connection that doesn't need to be announced to be felt. And then Jungkook said that one sentence that suddenly made every little interaction, before it feel even more meaningful. I probably know his personality the best, and fans immediately knew this was not going to stay small. Jungkook didn't take ITBACK, he actually explained vui. Of course, once Jungkook said that, there was no way the host was going to let the moment pass. The host leaned forward with visible excitement and asked, "Oh, really? Why do you think that?" And that was when things got even worse for fans. Because instead of laughing it off or changing the subject, Jungkook actually started explaining. And the more he explained, the more everyone in the room realized he wasn't speaking vaguely. He wasn't saying generic nice things. He was speaking like someone who had been paying attention for a very, very long time. Jungkook laughed softly, rubbed the back of his neck for a second, and then said, A lot of people only see Taehyung from the outside first. They think he's just funny, unique, random, or hard to predict. But actually, he's very deep. He thinks about a lot of things. He's very caring. And he also keeps a lot of his feelings to himself. The room instantly reacted. And not because it sounded weird, but because it sounded too accurate, too personal, too specific, too honest. Several members immediately started laughing and pointing at Jungkook like they couldn't believe he was actually saying all of this out loud. Meanwhile, Taehyung looked completely unprepared for what was happening. He smiled. He looked down. He laughed in embarrassment. He held his mic with both hands like he suddenly needed emotional support. And fans? Fans were done? Because the second Jungkook started describing Taehyung's inner personality like that, it no longer felt like a casual answer. It felt like a revelation. Jungkook knows Taehyung too well, the phrase that immediately went viral. Within minutes of the clip spreading online, one phrase started appearing everywhere. Jungkook knows Taehyung too well. And honestly, that was the perfect summary. Because what shocked fans wasn't just that Jungkook said he understood Taehyung best, it was that he explained Taehyung in a way that sounded deeply familiar, like he wasn't just talking about someone he had spent time with, but someone he had carefully observed. The difference is huge. Anyone can say, we're close. Anyone can say, I know him well. But Jungkook didn't stop there. He started describing the way Taehyung processes emotion, the way he behaves when he's overwhelmed, the way he acts when he's truly comfortable. That is a completely different level of understanding. And that's why fans were screaming. Because it suddenly felt like Jungkook wasn't just talking about Taehyung's public personality. He was talking about the real Taehyung, the Taehyung behind the smiles, the Taehyung behind the jokes, the Taehyung only people close enough would really notice. And somehow, Jungkook was describing that version of him with unsettling ease. Jungkook started revealing little habits about Taehyung that made everyone lose IT. As if that wasn't enough, the host then asked Jungkook if he could give an example. And honestly, that was the moment the fandom completely collapsed. Because Jungkook didn't hesitate for long. He smiled again and said something that instantly made everyone in the room laugh. When he has a lot on his mind, he usually gets quieter first. But it's not a cold kind of quiet. It's more like he's still paying attention to everything. That alone already made fans freeze. But then Jungkook kept going. And what he said next was even worse in the best possible way. And when he feels really comfortable, he starts doing little weird things. Like suddenly saying something random or laughing to himself because he thought of something funny before telling anyone else. The members burst into laughter again. Several of them immediately turned to Taehyung like, that's literally you. And Taehyung? He was visibly dying. He laughed so hard he had to look away. He covered part of his face. He looked like someone who had just been personally exposed in the softest and most dangerous way possible. And then Jungkook added the line that truly destroyed the internet. I can usually tell just by the way he sits or the way he looks around whether he's tired, thinking too much, or just in a playful mood. That line, yes, that line was the one that sent fans into complete emotional freefall. Because suddenly, this wasn't just cute. It wasn't just funny. It was intimate in the most emotionally devastating way. Not because it was romantic by definition, but because it showed an incredible level of attention. The kind of attention that only happens when someone has spent a long time noticing your smallest changes. The kind of attention that says, I know you even when you don't say anything. And fans were absolutely not okay. Taehyung's reaction made everything 10 times worse. One of the biggest reasons this moment became so unforgettable was Taehyung's reaction.